At dawn, Evelyn Blackthorne stood inside the Moonash nursery, holding a cream ribbon between steady fingers. She had planned to tie it around Adrian's wrist before showing him the medical file hidden beneath the cradle blanket. Then the royal wing doors opened, and Celeste Ward entered wearing Adrian's black cloak. The scent of jasmine reached Evelyn before either of them spoke. It clung to the cloak, to Adrian's shirt, and to the skin above his collar. Through the mate bond, she felt the jagged residue of desire that did not belong to her. Her unborn children shifted beneath her heart. Adrian stopped when he saw the ribbon. Celeste remained behind him, pale and watchful, one hand gripping the cloak closed over her nightdress. Evelyn set the ribbon beside the cradle. Her face did not change. Only the pulse in her throat betrayed how violently her body understood the truth completely. "Did you know what you were doing?" she asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. Celeste survived Raven Pass. She was held for 9 years because of decisions I made. Last night, she told me what happened. That was not my question. Silence spread through the nursery, colder than the winter windows outside. Adrian looked away first. "I knew." Celeste inhaled softly, perhaps expecting Evelyn to strike her, accuse her, or beg Adrian to choose. Evelyn did none of those things. She studied the man she had loved for 6 years and saw, with clarity, that guilt had mattered more than their vows. "It was one night," Adrian said, stepping toward her. "Do not destroy a kingdom over one night." Evelyn's fingers closed around the medical file beneath the blanket. He did not ask why she stood in the nursery at dawn. He did not notice the ribbon. He feared losing her labor. "Ironcrest needs its Luna," he continued. "We can contain this before the council learns anything. Contain this. Not heal it. Not confess it. Contain it." Evelyn turned to Celeste. The returned lover's eyes shone with fear, triumph, and something harder beneath both. She wanted forgiveness without surrendering the stolen prize. Evelyn lifted the Luna ring from her finger. The moonstone flashed once, warm against her skin, before cooling in her palm. Adrian's wolf surged through the bond in sudden alarm. "Evelyn," she ignored him. From beneath the blanket, she drew the sealed medical file and laid it inside the cradle. Next came a folded severance oath bearing her signature. She pressed a silver needle into the old scar across her left palm. Blood welled bright and red. When 3 drops struck the black royal wax, ancient symbols awakened along the carved rails, spreading like frost beneath Adrian's horrified stare silently. 2 narrow lines of light appeared beneath the seal. Celeste stepped back. "What does that mean?" Evelyn closed the cradle lid. "It means neither of you will touch what belongs inside." Adrian reached for her wrist. The seal flared. Heat struck his royal mark and drove him 3 steps backward. For the first time, panic broke Adrian's composure. "You cannot leave." The bond survived your body choosing hers," Evelyn said. "It will survive my absence." She took the cream ribbon from beside the cradle, folded it once, and placed it atop the black wax like a funeral offering. Celeste lowered her gaze, but Adrian followed Evelyn into the corridor. "If you cross the eastern boundary, the council will call it abandonment." Evelyn fastened her cloak. "Then tell them the truth. Their king abandoned his vows first." He flinched. She walked past him, untouched and unbowed forever. By sunrise, the eastern gate stood open, Evelyn's scent fading into the forest, while the royal wing filled with alarm. Adrian returned to the nursery and found the cradle sealed against his authority, the Luna ring locked within it, and 2 pale lines pulsing beneath the wax like hidden heartbeats. Rain had erased the road behind Evelyn before Ironcrest's towers disappeared from view. She welcomed the storm. It washed Adrian's scent from her cloak, blurred her tracks, and gave her something colder than grief to fight. Yet every step away from him tightened the mate bond around her ribs. By mile 7, the pain drove her against an ash tree, one hand clutching her stomach. Inside her, 2 tiny lives remained silent, too small for movement, but real enough to command her. Evelyn breathed through the spasm until the forest steadied. Turning back would ease the bond. It would also place her children beneath the same roof as Celeste and the council. She pushed away from the tree. "You will not become pieces on their board," she whispered, and continued. Near midday, the trees opened onto a neutral checkpoint, marked by gray stones and an iron bell. A fresh council notice had been nailed to the post. Evelyn stopped when she saw the royal seal pressed beneath Victor Crane's signature. The notice named Luna Evelyn Blackthorne unstable, possibly in possession of royal property, and ordered all border authorities to return her under protective custody immediately. Royal property. The phrase chilled her more than the rain. Victor did not know about the twins, but he was already constructing the cage he intended to place around her. Hoofbeats sounded behind her. 2 riders emerged from the trees wearing Ironcrest colors. Their cloaks were correct, their saddles military issue, but the silver pins at their throats bore Victor's crane rather than Adrian's wolf. "Your Majesty," the first tracker called, though his hand rested on a restraint chain. "King Adrian has ordered us to escort you home." Evelyn studied the mud on their boots. They had approached from the southern council road, not the palace. "Show me his written command." The second man dismounted. "You are distressed, Luna. We have authority to act for your safety." He smiled coldly. The chain came free with a metallic hiss. Evelyn shifted her weight, placing the notice post between them while measuring the distance to the bell. She could fight 1 man, perhaps 2 on better ground, but another bond spasm tore through her chest. The tracker saw her falter and lunged. Evelyn seized the bell rope, swung beneath his grasp, and struck his throat with precision. The bell rang once, sharp enough to scatter birds from the branches. The second tracker drew a silver blade. Before he could advance, a growl rolled across the checkpoint, deep and controlled. 6 gray wolves emerged from the northern tree line. Behind them walked Cassian Rowe in a dark field coat, his amber eyes moving from Evelyn's bloodless face to the chain in the mud. "Lower it," Cassian said. The tracker obeyed before pride could stop him. Cassian had negotiated with Evelyn 3 times and had never seen her sway on her feet. He did not reach for her. Instead, he stepped between her and the men. Northwatch recognizes the neutral refuge code. She stands beyond Ironcrest jurisdiction unless you present a direct royal warrant witnessed by 3 neutral elders. "We have the king's seal," the first man argued. Cassian glanced at the notice and smiled without warmth. "You have council wax stamped with a stolen signet. Ironcrest has a habit of calling abduction an escort." His soldiers closed ranks. The trackers exchanged a look, mounted, and retreated south. Only after their scents faded did Cassian turn. Evelyn remained upright through force of will alone. "You need a healer," he said. "I need sanctuary." Her voice stayed steady. Cassian noticed her hand, protecting her stomach, and asked nothing. Instead, he lifted a pin from the chain. A crane was carved beneath the Ironcrest crest. He frowned. "Your king did not send those men to bring you home. Someone in his council sent them to make sure you never reached one." Frosthall Keep rose from the northern cliffs like a fortress carved from winter itself. By the time Evelyn crossed its gates, the rain had become sleet, and every breath scraped against the damaged bond in her chest. Cassian did not announce her arrival. He led her through a side entrance, dismissed the curious guards, and placed her beneath Northwatch's 30-day protection before Victor Crane's notice could reach another checkpoint nearby. In the council room, Evelyn refused the guest chambers reserved for visiting royalty. "I will not live here as charity," she said, standing across from Cassian's blackwood table. "Give me access to your trade maps. I will identify where your supply lines are bleeding." Cassian watched the tremor she hid by clasping her hands. "In exchange?" "A room, medical treatment, and no questions I do not choose to answer." His gaze dropped briefly toward her stomach. "Then one condition. You hide nothing that could bring Ironcrest's army across my border." "Agreed," Evelyn lied. The healer who examined her found exhaustion, bond trauma, and a pulse too fast for safety. Evelyn kept one hand over the hidden medical truth while answering every other question. Cassian remained outside the infirmary door, speaking quietly with his captain. He had offered refuge because law demanded it, but suspicion still sharpened every line of his face. A Luna fleeing before dawn rarely carried only heartbreak. Before sunset, a child began convulsing in the neighboring ward. 3 warriors had collapsed that morning with the same silver veins beneath their skin. Northwatch's healers blamed wolfsbane, yet Evelyn smelled no bitter herb on their breath. She touched the boy's damp hair, examined the gray residue beneath his nails, and asked where he had filled his cup. "The lower well," his mother whispered. Evelyn ordered the well sealed. When a senior healer protested, she thrust a white cloth into the bucket and held it beneath the lamp. Metallic dust glittered across the fibers. "Not wolfsbane," she said. "Silver runoff. Your abandoned mine is poisoning the groundwater." Cassian arrived as she mixed charcoal, moonroot, and binding salts into an antidote. He saw the child swallow, stop shaking, and finally breathe without pain. "You knew that from one bucket?" Cassian asked later. Evelyn washed blood from her scarred palm. "From 3 patients, 1 residue pattern, and a healer too certain of his first answer. Ironcrest called you ceremonial. Ironcrest benefited from that lie." For the first time, respect displaced calculation in Cassian's expression. He ordered the infirmary records opened to her, and the lower mine searched before midnight. The search uncovered council-stamped barrels hidden behind a collapsed tunnel. Their contents had been feeding silver dust into Northwatch's water for months. Cassian did not thank Evelyn with praise. He handed her the missing convoy reports and said, "You wanted trade maps, earn the rest." Evelyn almost smiled. It was the first honest bargain anyone had offered her in years. Near dawn, Cassian brought her beneath Frost Hall to the Moonstone Archive. The chamber smelled of dust, iron, and old grief. He unlocked a cabinet marked with his sister's name. Amelia Rowe had died at Raven Pass, and Cassian had spent 9 years proving the massacre was more than a failed military retreat. Celeste Ward was listed among the dead, he said, but Amelia never believed it. Evelyn opened a leather-bound ledger, seized from smugglers 5 years earlier. Halfway down a page of medical shipments, Celeste's name appeared beside a signed receipt for suppressants, winter clothing, and transport to a council safe house. Evelyn read the date twice. Celeste had been alive at least 4 years before walking into Adrian's hunting lodge. The revelation did not soften his betrayal. It made it deliberate, in a different way. On the ledger, the crane insignia matched Victor's notice. Evelyn closed the book. Celeste had not returned from the dead. Someone had kept her hidden and chosen when to send her back. 3 days after Evelyn entered Frost Hall, the Northern Council summoned Cassian before sunrise. A grain convoy had vanished along the White Pine Road, leaving 2 villages without winter stores. The elders blamed Ironcrest raiders and demanded retaliation. Evelyn stood beside the map table, listening as anger replaced evidence. Cassian asked for her judgment. She answered with a question. How much did the missing wagons weigh? Exactly. The quartermaster produced a ledger claiming 12 wagons carried 40 tons of grain. Evelyn compared the figures with axle limits, horse teams, and snowfall reports. Impossible, she said. 6 wagons could carry that weight. 12 would have sunk before reaching the first ridge. Murmurs moved around the chamber. The quartermaster flushed and accused her of protecting Ironcrest. Evelyn turned the ledger toward Cassian. Someone invented cargo. She proposed a false convoy carrying empty barrels beneath sealed grain cloth, escorted by only 4 visible guards. Cassian studied her for a long moment. You want thieves to believe Northwatch is desperate. I want the person paying them to believe we learn nothing. One elder objected that Evelyn was still Ironcrest's Luna. Cassian replied, Today, she is my strategist. Argue with the results tomorrow. At dusk, the decoy wagons crawled into White Pine Pass. Evelyn rode inside the second wagon, hidden behind stacked barrels with Cassian and 2 archers. Snow muffled every hoofbeat. When masked wolves dropped from the rocks, Evelyn counted their positions instead of reaching for a weapon. Wait, she whispered. The attackers ignored the lead wagon and surrounded the ledger cart. They knew exactly what to steal. Cassian gave the signal. Northwatch warriors rose from trenches beneath the snow, cutting off both exits. The ambushers surrendered after a brief clash, except one who lunged toward Evelyn with a silver hook. She stepped aside, trapped his wrist against the wagon, and drove her elbow into his jaw. Cassian finished the fight with one controlled strike. Ceremonial? He asked. Evelyn reclaimed the ledger. Apparently, under questioning, the captured leader named Northwatch's quartermaster as the buyer and produced a payment token stamped with Victor Crane's insignia. The quartermaster tried to flee before dawn, but Evelyn had already ordered every stable gate chained. When guards dragged him into council, he confessed that Crane wanted Northwatch to attack Ironcrest before the full moon. War would bury questions about Celeste and Raven Pass. Victory did not end the danger. One archer had been cut by the silver hook, and black veins spread rapidly from his wound. Evelyn knelt beside him in the infirmary, crushing moonroot into a binding paste. As her blood-stained left palm pressed the medicine over his skin, the moonstone pendant beneath her shirt grew hot. Blue light spilled between her fingers. The room fell silent. Cassian stared at the pendant when Evelyn pulled it free. Its carved crest matched the oldest symbol in Northwatch's archive, a crescent enclosing 2 stars. Evelyn had worn it since childhood, believing it was her mother's keepsake. That mark predates every royal house, Cassian said. It belonged to the first Luna. Evelyn closed her fingers around the stone. Then why did my mother hide it? Cassian offered no comforting guess. Instead, he brought Evelyn to Amelia's sealed study, untouched since his sister's death. Dust-covered maps, coded letters, and a silver dagger broken near the hilt. Evelyn found the white pine route marked beside Raven Pass. Amelia had been tracking the same payments 9 years earlier. She knew Crane was funding both sides, Evelyn said. Cassian nodded, grief tightening his mouth. Inside a drawer, they found a final page in Amelia's hand. It listed Celeste Ward, Victor Crane, and Naomi Pierce beneath one warning: succession. Evelyn felt the pendant pulse against her palm, while the damaged mate bond twisted far south. Cassian read the last line twice, then looked at her with something colder than suspicion. Find Evelyn Hart before the council learns what she carries. 6 weeks after Evelyn vanished, Ironcrest no longer sounded like a kingdom at peace. Supply carts crowded the eastern gate, healers argued over missing antidotes, and 3 allied packs returned unsigned trade contracts. Every document carried the same objection: no Luna seal. Adrian stood inside the council chamber, listening to complaints Evelyn had once solved before breakfast, while Celeste occupied the silver chair beside him. She wore white, the color reserved for coronation candidates, and smiled whenever the elders addressed her as Lady Ward. Yet when a border captain asked how many antidote crates Northwatch required, Celeste glanced at Adrian. She had never read the winter ledgers, never negotiated healer access, and never learned why Evelyn kept duplicate routes. Adrian answered poorly. The captain's disappointment felt sharper than open rebellion. After the meeting, Adrian found Celeste still seated in the Luna chair, examining a coronation notice Victor Crane had prepared. Her name was written beneath his in gold ink. "The council wants certainty," she said. Adrian looked at the empty place where Evelyn's hand once rested during difficult votes. "The council wants obedience." Celeste folded the notice. "Then give them a Luna who understands obedience." That night, Adrian entered the Moonash nursery alone. Dust had not settled on the cradle. Servants were too frightened to approach it. The black wax remained smooth except for 2 pale lines pulsing beneath the surface. He pressed his royal mark against the lid. Heat exploded through his palm. Adrian staggered back, biting down a roar as the wolf crest branded itself across his skin. Words awakened along the inner rail, visible only when Adrian reached again. "No claim shall pass a sealed cradle without public trial." His stomach tightened. Evelyn had not merely left. She had invoked a law older than his crown, powerful enough to suspend succession. The 2 glowing lines mocked him with one question: what had she placed inside besides her ring before leaving Ironcrest forever? The answer arrived before breakfast. Celeste entered his study carrying a cream medical file and Victor Crane at her shoulder. She lowered her eyes, performing uncertainty with careful precision. "I am carrying your heir." Adrian did not move. Victor set the file beside the coronation notice and spoke of stability, bloodline, and immediate recognition. Outside, bells announced another convoy turning away from Ironcrest that morning. Adrian opened the report. 6 weeks. The calculation fit too perfectly. Celeste crossed the room and guided his hand toward her stomach. His wolf should have recognized royal blood, even this early. Old instinct answered before medicine. Adrian felt warmth from her body, the faint tremor of her breathing, and nothing else. No pull, no resonance, no spark from the bloodline bound to his own. Celeste saw doubt enter his face and withdrew. "Trauma can delay recognition," Victor said smoothly. "The coronation must proceed before rumors weaken the crown." Adrian closed the file. Somewhere beneath his anger, Evelyn's voice returned. "Did you know what you were doing?" He had answered, "Yes." Now every consequence stood before him, wearing another woman's face and asking him to mistake haste for duty again. Marcus arrived after Victor left. The beta waited until Celeste's scent faded, then reopened the medical file. He compared the examination date with the clinic registry and frowned. This was signed 4 days before Lady Ward entered Ironcrest. Adrian stared at him. Marcus turned another page. The blood sample number belonged to a wounded soldier treated during the Southern Patrol, not to Celeste at all. For several seconds, Adrian said nothing. Beyond the study windows, workers raised banners for a coronation Evelyn had never approved. Below them, families waited for supplies her seal could release. Adrian looked from the false report to the black burn across his palm. Marcus lowered his voice. "The child in Celeste's report carries your name, my king, but not a single trace of your blood." Suna. Naomi Pierce reached Frost Hall before dawn, half frozen and carrying a leather case chained to her wrist. Northwatch guards found her horse collapsing near the western gate. When Cassian brought her into the war room, Evelyn recognized the royal healer, who had whispered congratulations only hours before Adrian betrayed her. Naomi locked the doors herself. From the case, she removed Evelyn's original bloodline report, the duplicate pregnancy scan, and a sealed letter written by Evelyn's mother. "You are carrying twins," she said, "and Victor Crane will burn kingdoms before he allows either child to be registered under your name legally." Evelyn kept both hands flat on the table. She had known about 2 heartbeats, yet hearing the truth spoken aloud made the future suddenly fragile. Cassian watched her face rather than the documents. He understood that joy could become another weapon when powerful men believed unborn children belonged to crowns. Naomi opened the letter. Evelyn's mother had descended from Maeve Hart, the first Luna who created the cradle law after an alpha tried to seize her daughter. The moonstone pendant was not jewelry. It was a blood key that could summon the first moon assembly and dissolve a corrupted council. Cassian placed Amelia's final notes beside Naomi's report. The pieces aligned with brutal precision. Victor had hidden Celeste until Evelyn's pregnancy threatened his power. Once registered, the twins could authorize a royal audit, expose decades of stolen war funds, and remove every elder who had profited from Raven Pass massacre. "They did not need me dead," Evelyn said. "They needed me discredited, isolated, or declared unstable before my children entered the succession record." Naomi nodded. Celeste had been the bait, Adrian's guilt the opening, and his arrogance the blade. The council had predicted everything except Evelyn invoking ancient law first. A messenger interrupted them with news from Ironcrest. Adrian had approved preparations for Celeste's coronation, though no ceremony date had been announced. The damaged mate bond reacted before Evelyn could master her expression. Pain speared beneath her sternum. She gripped the table, and the pendant flashed violently against her throat. Then something inside her went terribly quiet. Evelyn's knees folded. Naomi caught her shoulders, while Cassian shouted for the infirmary. One heartbeat remained strong beneath the healer's listening stone. The second fluttered, weakened, and nearly vanished. Fear tore through Evelyn more cleanly than the mate bond ever had before now. In the treatment room, Naomi ordered every alpha outside. Cassian obeyed without argument, although his wolf raged at the scent of distress. He remained beyond the closed door, dismissed the guards, and prevented Northwatch's council from entering. Evelyn heard none of it. She fought to breathe while Naomi prepared moonroot. The medicine slowed the bond's violent pull, but it could not erase it. Naomi pressed the listening stone lower. A faint rhythm returned beside the stronger heartbeat. Evelyn covered her mouth, refusing to let relief become a sob. Her children were alive, yet Adrian's choices could reach them from afar. When Cassian was finally admitted, he stopped several feet from the bed. "No one will decide where you go, what you reveal, or how these children are raised," he said. "Not Ironcrest, not Northwatch, not me." Evelyn saw no claim in his eyes, only a promise to defend her boundaries. In the corridor, however, a junior healer named Taryn watched Cassian leave. Victor Crane had purchased his loyalty months earlier by promising medicine for his imprisoned brother. Taryn entered the records room, copied Evelyn's treatment chart, and marked Frost Hall's hidden infirmary entrance on a strip of council cipher paper carefully. Before sunrise, Taryn fastened the message beneath a raven's wing and released it from the eastern tower. Inside the infirmary, Evelyn listened as both heartbeats strengthened, unaware that Victor now knew exactly where the first Luna's bloodline slept. The bird crossed the border carrying orders to silence all three forever. Celeste entered the council archive after midnight, wearing mourning white. Victor Crane waited beside locked cabinets, containing succession records alone. She placed both palms upon his desk and demanded coronation. Victor barely glanced up from the forged bloodline certificates nearby. "You promised protection once Evelyn abandoned Ironcrest," Celeste reminded him. Victor smiled, revealing how little her survival truly mattered anymore. "You were never meant to rule," he answered with contempt. "You were merely the bridge leading us toward Evelyn's heirs." Cold understanding replaced Celeste's practiced fragility within several silent seconds. After coronation, Victor intended to erase every remaining loose end. "Including me," Celeste whispered, finally hearing her own sentence clearly. Victor closed the ledger and ordered her to remain useful. Outside, Marcus approached the royal clinic through abandoned service corridors. The false pregnancy dates had given him nowhere else left. He bribed a frightened attendant and entered the crystal room. Security crystals preserved every examination, sample transfer, and healer signature. Marcus replayed Celeste's appointment until one detail finally surfaced clearly. Her healer exchanged Celeste's vial for a wounded soldier's blood. The crystal also captured Victor watching from behind frosted glass. Marcus copied everything before council guards sealed the clinic doors. He reached Adrian's study moments before the morning war briefing. Adrian watched the recording twice, expression hardening into dangerous silence. His wolf recognized deception, but guilt recognized something worse underneath. Celeste's pregnancy was false, yet Evelyn's absence remained entirely real. He summoned Celeste privately and placed the crystal between them. She watched her healer change the blood without blinking once. "Was anything between us real?" Adrian asked, voice nearly breaking. Celeste laughed softly, though terror had drained her face colorless. "My grief was real, and so was my hatred, Adrian," she confessed, shaping every memory toward his oldest surviving guilt. Council agents had taught her exactly which wounds remained open. They promised safety, recognition, and the Luna title afterward forever. Adrian seized the desk, struggling against his rising alpha rage. "You used me," he said, each word stripped completely bare. Celeste stepped closer, refusing to accept his final excuse anymore. "I opened the door, but you willingly entered," she answered. "No spell removed your vows or carried you upstairs, Adrian." For the first time, his last defense collapsed completely inside. Celeste then revealed Evelyn carried twins beneath First Luna blood. Victor's hunters already knew the hidden Frost Hall infirmary entrance location. Adrian called Marcus, ordering every coronation banner torn down immediately. He canceled Celeste's ceremony before the assembled royal household publicly. Victor appeared outraged, invoking council authority over succession matters instantly. Adrian shattered the coronation notice beneath his burned royal mark. Then he ordered Victor detained for treason against unborn heirs. Council guards refused, claiming immunity until a public trial convened. Victor smiled because law still protected his conspiracy temporarily there. Adrian could invade Northwatch, but doing so guaranteed immediate war. Instead, he invoked the ancient right of cradle trial publicly. The sealed cradle answered with twin pulses beneath black wax. Across Frost Hall, Evelyn awakened as alarms thundered through northern halls. Cassian's scouts had captured one hunter near the eastern tower. The prisoner carried Victor's orders and Taryn's copied treatment chart. Evelyn read the assassination command without letting her hands tremble. Naomi confirmed the hunters intended to kill all three patients. Cassian demanded immediate evacuation toward Northwatch's mountain sanctuary before sunrise. Evelyn refused to keep running while Victor rewrote her story. She requested every ledger, witness statement, and bloodline document prepared. If council wanted succession, she would answer before every pack. Cassian studied her, then placed every preparation under her command. In Ironcrest, Marcus received Adrian's sealed summons before noon arrived. "Bring Evelyn home," Adrian ordered, avoiding every hopeful word carefully. Marcus remembered her bloodless face disappearing through the eastern gates. He understood that home no longer meant Adrian's kingdom alone. "She is returning," Marcus said, "but never as your Luna." At noon, the northern gates of Ironcrest opened for Evelyn's return. She rode beneath Northwatch banners, wearing charcoal wool instead of royal blue. Cassian traveled beside her, Naomi and 3 healers behind them, followed by witnesses carrying locked evidence chests. The gathered wolves expected a discarded Luna seeking mercy. Evelyn gave them no bowed head, no ring, and no glance toward the palace steps ahead. Adrian waited beneath the stone arch, a black burn visible across his palm. For one dangerous second, the mate bond pulled Evelyn toward him, carrying his grief, fear, and desperate recognition of the children beneath her cloak. She locked every feeling behind discipline. Cassian did not touch her. He matched her pace, making it clear that Northwatch had come as a witness, never a conqueror. Inside the great hall, the sealed moon ash cradle stood before 8-pack delegations. Its black wax still pulsed with 2 pale lines. Victor Crane occupied the council platform, surrounded by elders and armed guards. Evelyn walked to the center without waiting for Adrian's invitation. Her voice crossed the chamber cleanly. "I, Evelyn Hart, invoke first cradle law and demand trial before the pack assembly." Adrian approached carrying the royal seal on an open velvet cushion. He stopped several steps from her, careful not to force the bond closer. "The crown recognizes your claim," he said. "Take the seal." Evelyn looked at the symbol that had authorized hunters, false notices, and years of council theft. "Place it on the evidence table," she answered. "No king's hand controls these proceedings now." A murmur rolled through the pack. Adrian obeyed. Victor rose at once, declaring Evelyn compromised by Northwatch influence. While he spoke, she studied the guards behind him. 7 wore ceremonial swords on the left hip. 1 carried his weapon on the right, his boots marked with Frosthall mud, despite never traveling north. His eyes remained fixed on Naomi's leather case, not Evelyn or the cradle. "Down," Evelyn ordered. She struck Naomi's shoulder and drove the healer behind the evidence table as the false guard drew a silver dagger. The blade flashed toward Evelyn's abdomen. Cassian intercepted the attacker's wrist, twisting him away, but a second knife slipped from the guard's sleeve. Adrian moved before thought. Silver opened his side as he shielded Evelyn and the unborn twins with his body. Cassian broke the assassin's arm and forced him to the floor. Adrian remained standing, one hand pressed against the wound, refusing every healer who tried to pull him away. Evelyn did not soften. She checked Naomi, checked the case, then faced Victor. The speaker pointed toward Cassian with theatrical outrage. "Northwatch staged this attack to seize Ironcrest. Arrest their alpha immediately for treason against Ironcrest." No guard moved. Marcus stepped between Cassian and the council platform, holding the captured assassin's insignia. Beneath the Ironcrest wolf, Victor's crane had been carved into the metal. "He entered through the council barracks," Marcus announced. Victor ordered his loyal elders to detain Marcus as well. Panic spread through the hall, as old alliances began choosing sides in public before every pack leader gathered there. Evelyn cut through the noise by placing her bleeding palm upon the cradle. Blood from the assassin's grazing strike touched the black wax. The ancient seal awakened, sending blue light across the carved rails. Every alpha in the chamber felt the authority behind it. Victor's command vanished beneath a deeper law, one created to protect mothers from crowns and councils alike when power became predatory. The first line brightened, then the second answered, pulsing with a separate rhythm. Gasps rose from every delegation as 2 heartbeats echoed through the great hall. Adrian closed his eyes, blood soaking his coat, while Celeste watched from the gallery. Evelyn kept her hand on the seal and faced the packs. The hall had expected proof of 1 royal heir. The cradle answered with 2. The twin heartbeats continued after the blue light faded, leaving the great hall silent. Evelyn removed her hand from the cradle and faced the neutral elder overseeing the trial. Adrian remained near the evidence table, while Naomi bound his silver wound. Victor Crane demanded postponement, claiming the attack had contaminated proceedings. Evelyn invoked the clause written for such interference. Truth delayed by violence became treason. At the elder's command, Evelyn, Naomi, and a neutral healer broke the seal together. Black wax split along the two glowing lines. Inside rested the Luna ring, her original medical file, the maternal sanctuary oath, and a narrow strip of cloth embroidered with the first moon crest. No jewels, no accusation, only proof prepared before Evelyn crossed the border. Adrian finally understood when she knew. Naomi read the examination date aloud. 10 weeks pregnant, on the morning of Adrian's betrayal. The Luna ring warmed when Evelyn touched it, releasing a silver glow that traveled up her wrist. When Celeste was ordered forward, the moonstone turned dark and cold beneath her fingers. Celeste recoiled as whispers spread through the delegations. The ancient symbol rendered judgment before elders shaped its meaning publicly. Cassian opened Amelia's archive chest. He presented the Raven Pass ledger, transport receipts bearing Celeste's signature, and payments routed through Victor's accounts. Marcus followed with the security crystal from the clinic. Before every alpha present, the image showed Celeste's healer replacing her blood vial with a soldier's sample, while Victor watched behind frosted glass. The false pregnancy collapsed under evidence no council speech could bury. Celeste's mask finally broke. She admitted the council had kept her alive, moved her between safe houses, and fed her rage until revenge felt like survival. She had returned willingly, she said, because she wanted Adrian, the Luna title, and protection from Victor. Yet she also admitted the pregnancy was fabricated. Adrian looked at her coldly. She had become proof of how guilt could imitate love. Victor rose and invoked council immunity. Evelyn answered by fastening her mother's pendant around her wrist and placing the first moon cloth beneath the royal seal. Blue fire crossed the evidence table. One by one, the pack representatives felt their oath marks awaken. Evelyn called the first moon assembly, suspending every elder's immunity until the ledgers were audited. Victor's authority vanished before the gathered packs. Then Adrian stepped away from the throne. He did not mention spells, drugs, or fate. He said Celeste had used his grief, and Victor had created the opportunity, but neither had chosen for him. He had betrayed Evelyn because arrogance convinced him one night could be forgiven, while her loyalty remained available. His confession stripped the hall of every excuse prepared for him in advance. Victor was seized. Celeste surrendered her claim. The neutral elder moved to close the trial when the western doors exploded inward. Council loyalists dragged Naomi from the healer's station, a silver chain locked around her throat. Another guard snatched the bloodline register from the evidence table. Smoke crystals shattered across the floor, blinding the hall as the kidnappers fled through the passage toward Raven Pass. Adrian offered the royal army before the smoke cleared. Cassian offered pursuit riders. Evelyn refused both commands and spread Amelia's Raven Pass map across the cradle lid. The kidnappers would expect kings to charge the main road. She identified an abandoned healer tunnel, assigned Marcus to seal the southern ridge, and ordered Cassian's archers through the snow channel. Her children kicked, answering her certainty silently. Adrian asked whether he should follow. Evelyn looked at his bandaged side, then at the throne he had failed to protect. "Come as a soldier," she said, "not as my mate or king." Cassian waited beside the cradle until Evelyn raised Amelia's map and gave the order. "I don't need a king to command this mission. I need men who know how to follow." Raven Pass burned with blue fire when Evelyn's team reached the ruined fortress. Victor's loyalists had chained Naomi beside the bloodline register and surrounded both with silver traps wired beneath the floor. Adrian moved toward her, but Evelyn caught his arm. One wrong step kills Naomi and destroys the record. She opened Amelia's map, studied the broken tunnels, and divided the fighters without raising her voice. Cassian led the archers through the snow channel, while Marcus sealed the southern ridge. Evelyn entered the healer tunnel alone, carrying the silver dagger from Amelia's study. Victor watched her emerge behind his guards and smiled. "Still pretending you command kings?" Evelyn cut Naomi's chain with the dagger. "No," she answered. "I command the plan." They chose whether they were honorable enough to follow it. Battle erupted across the fortress. Cassian's arrows drove the loyalists from the walls, and Marcus captured the passage before reinforcements arrived. Victor triggered the silver lattice beneath Evelyn's feet. Adrian saw the wires ignite and crossed the chamber before anyone could stop him. He tore the central chain from the stone. Silver fire surged through his royal mark, burning his alpha wolf into permanent silence forever. The trap collapsed. Adrian fell, conscious but emptied of the dominance that had defined him since birth. Evelyn reached him only after Naomi and the register were safe. He looked at her stomach, then at his hands. "Do not let this buy forgiveness." Evelyn pressed a bandage against his chest. "It does not," she said, "but it can become the honest thing you have given them." Victor attempted to escape through the western gate. Celeste, brought under guard to identify council routes, blocked him with a fallen spear. He called her disposable again. This time, she did not retreat. Cassian arrested Victor alive, denying him the martyrdom he expected. The bloodline register survived, Naomi survived, and every hidden payment beneath Raven Pass was carried back to Ironcrest under neutral protection safely. Before the pack assembly, Victor received permanent severance and imprisonment inside the Silver Fortress. His allied elders lost their titles, property, and authority. Celeste surrendered every royal claim and agreed to testify under neutral supervision. Her punishment was not death, but survival without the recognition she had betrayed others to possess. Adrian formally abdicated, placing Ironcrest beneath an elected council until a worthy alpha emerged. Then Adrian signed the judicial severance. The mate bond broke with one pull through Evelyn's ribs, painful but clean. He renounced automatic custody, royal naming rights, and every claim over the twins. "I will ask before entering their lives," he said. Evelyn accepted his apology without offering reunion. Forgiveness, she understood, could release anger. Trust required a future he no longer had authority to demand. Months later, Evelyn founded Moonhaven beyond the river, where expelled wolves, pregnant women, healers, and unranked children could seek sanctuary without surrendering themselves to any crown. She governed through an elected council and kept the first moon key beside her, never above her people. Nora and Elias were born during the spring thaw, healthy, loud, and carrying Heart as the first name of their bloodline. The moon ash cradle stood in their sunlit nursery, its black wax washed away. Cassian spent an afternoon assembling its canopy incorrectly, then blamed Ironcrest craftsmanship when one side collapsed. Evelyn laughed before she could stop herself. He offered no Luna ring and made no claim. Instead, he placed a council chamber key in her palm. "May I build this place beside you?" he asked. Evelyn closed her fingers around the key and chose him freely. Adrian visited later, stopping at Moonhaven's boundary until her guard granted permission. He saw the twins across the garden and did not cross the distance she had set. Inside, sunlight filled the cradle while Nora slept, and Elias gripped Cassian's thumb. Evelyn's future belonged to neither bond nor crown. It belonged entirely to her. So, Evelyn's story has reached its final page. Are you still here with me? If you are, then perhaps this story touched a place you know too well. The pain of being betrayed by someone you trusted, being misunderstood, or watching others expect you to stay simply because leaving would inconvenience them. Evelyn was hurt, but she did not beg for love that had already chosen to disrespect her. She walked away, not because she felt nothing, but because dignity mattered more than remaining in a place where her loyalty was treated like a permanent resource. That is the quiet strength behind her choice. We cannot control who lies to us, who underestimates us, or who realizes our value too late. We can control what we accept next. Choosing yourself does not mean becoming cold. It means refusing to keep paying for another person's mistakes. It means setting boundaries, even when your heart still remembers the good days. And, yes, it may also mean letting someone else struggle with a cradle canopy while you finally enjoy a peaceful afternoon. If you believe forgiveness can be offered but trust must be earned, comment one word below: dignity. And if Evelyn's journey stayed with you, please gently support the channel with a like, a share, and a subscription. Dedict logo.